Nope. Ready? Okay. Call to order our special commission meeting for Tuesday, June 13, 2023. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Groth, Vice Mayor Gonzalez. Here. Commissioner Amsler, Commissioner Kennedy.
Here.
Commissioner Olivera. Here. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Move to the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. Move on to our public comment section. Start with anyone in the log cabin.
Hey, Jonathan, can I mention something real quickly before we get into public comment?
Sure.
I had a resident bring to my attention the fact that we aren't uniformly requiring people to provide their addresses. That some people do, some people don't. And I inquired with I guess Ed first, was that Ed? Yeah. And I asked, what are the actual requirements? Because somebody was complaining. And they informed me that they looked in our code and also our meeting policies, procedures, and it's not codified in either of them, and it is in most communities.
For the actual address, you mean?
Yeah, so it's pretty standard, I guess, from what Ed told me, that municipalities do it for a number of reasons, but we haven't.
Okay.
So I'm just bringing it to your attention.
Yep.
And we probably should look into getting that codified if we agree to do that. I'm sure it's something they just write up and add to our procedures and we adopt it in whatever form we want to do it. But I did get some complaints that we're not uniformly requiring people to do it. Turns out we can't require anyone to do it.
I know it's been the policy for a while, well, I guess informally now. So, Mr. Manager, is that something that we might be able to place onto our next regular commission agenda meeting, please? Perfect. Great, thank you. So having no public comment here, do we have any public comment on Zoom? Seeing none, okay. We'll move straight into item 6, new business, and the first of which is the FAA draft letter. So this is something, and let me just turn to it. So I know that we're all aware of the background on this. I went ahead and took the initiative and wanted to share with everyone. This is very interesting. This letter, the letter that you're reading, was actually drafted using ChatGPT.
Oh, really?
Yes. ChatGPT. This letter was drafted using AI. So my law firm, we use AI pretty regularly, and we found it to be a very useful tool, not in the context of the attorney that was reprimanded for the fake brief not too long ago. There is a more reliable legal AI tool, but for things like this, ChatGPT is actually very useful. So of course, I read through it after it drafted. I punched in all the parameters, exactly what I wanted it to say. A lot of what you're reading was drafted by the AI. So I amended, I put it a lot in the placeholders here that you see in the bold, because this is meant for not just residents of Biscayne Park, but all the other municipalities that are affected by it. And down here in the second paragraph, an area where people can have an opportunity to personalize the letter. But this was really meant to achieve two things. One, in the meeting that we had with Congresswoman Federica Wilson, she said we've kind of exhausted a lot of our procedural appeals to try and move the flight patterns. So she had recommended that this might be the only way to get attention to the matter within the administration. So, and what had been communicated to us was it's really a volume issue. We need a lot of them. So this is really done in a way that if someone doesn't choose to personalize it, they don't have to. It just kind of makes a general plea of this is the problem and this is what we'd like you to do. Because again, at her encouragement, she said, you know, inviting him down to view and speak with the people personally would be great. Whether that happens, who knows? But this is kind of the form letter. I've also shared it with a commission member in North Bay Village who had been working on this previously, but didn't really make a lot of progress. And I spoke with her yesterday actually, and she said that she's going to take a look at it. So I'm open to any comments or suggestions that anybody might have about the form. But this is kind of the draft that we'd like to work off of. Right. I don't know about the procedure about submission of the letters themselves. I just know that to begin with, we need the numbers. And my initial plan was to set up just maybe a Gmail account or a free email account where we can put this out to residents in all of the municipalities and say, this is the return email address where we can kind of collect them in a cloud storage, and then get in touch with the administration, however that is possible, and find out the best way to submit it to them for consideration. That wasn't what she had suggested, but she didn't say specifically either way. I think email would be easiest because then we can kind of control the bulk submission. But if anyone submits something to that email address, you know, we can even just say, you know, contact this email account if you have questions.
Okay.
If they say they'd like to email or mail it themselves, I'm sure that's
Okay. Well, whatever works best, we'll do that. And when it's time, I will certainly be very happy to help you sort of drum up support on this. Okay. Cool. May I mention a couple of things?
Yeah, of course.
So I think it could be a little shorter. I think it's a little long.
Yeah. It was actually longer.
Oh, really?
It was.
Okay. So a couple of specific things beyond that. I think maybe some of this would be easier for someone to read if they really were to read it, if there were some bullet points. So some of the things were pulled out and like specific things were bullet pointed. It always makes it easier for someone who's really not going to read something verbatim. It's just going to kind of look down to see what it is, to see what the salient points are. There's a couple of specific things that I think might be interesting to add somewhere. The fact that this was a change to flight patterns, that when most of us bought in this community and other communities that are being impacted, we bought with a certain flight pattern, a certain expectation. And then all of a sudden it changed. And when it changed, it was, I don't know which ones of us lived here. I think we probably all did. It was remarkable. It was like all of a sudden one day, bam, all of a sudden there's like, what's that plane doing over my house? I had never had that before. So the fact that we didn't buy into this. So we're not just merely complaining about something that always was, but something that we bought in that changed pretty dramatically. The flight patterns are also very low. So it's not just the fact that they're going over us. And I don't think height is in here, altitude is in here anywhere. But that's the other thing is they were going over us before, but they would go out and make the turn out over the ocean and you'd see them up really, really high and you couldn't even hear them. You could barely see most of them. But now they're going directly over us and they're really, really low. So that's why we're getting the noise. That's why we're getting the pollution from the engines. That's why it's startling almost some of them when they go by so low. The other day, there must have been some weather thing going on. I don't know what it was, but the planes were going in a different direction and I could see them in the distance. And it was just remarkable how much more peaceful Biscayne Park felt for like a day because they weren't going over the village for some reason. So the altitude is another thing. I don't know exactly how we would put this, but the previous flight pattern took it out over Miami Beach. So we've all taken off from the airport and you took off over downtown and you went across the bay and across Miami Beach and you would make the turn and come back. I mean, there are people who live out there as well, but it's a tourist, community. And I imagined, and I think I was told by someone, I don't know if it's true, that, they lobbied for this change because of the tourists out there, didn't want planes going over their heads and they wanted it to be nicer for the tourists to the detriment of the residents of a big part of the county. So it seems like it was done for people who are visiting Miami Beach as opposed to all of us who live here. the fact that we're a bird sanctuary, and now that we all know that ordinance number 1 in 1928 or whatever year it was declaring us a bird. Hey, how about Shantae finding that document? Good grief. That was awesome. It's like the bam, the next day, there it is. That was the cutest thing. I mean, that just gave me such a little thrill to see that ordinance and the fact that it's all ratty on the one side and everything. But the fact that we're a bird sanctuary, I think might be mentioned in here as well. And the other thing is that there are also, not only is this change impacting us, but the changes to the FEC railway with the addition of Brightline and now Tri-Rails coming. So we're really getting bombarded from above and from one side, and the changeover on that side, on the eastern side of the village, is going to be dramatic in the coming years as well. Something we may want to talk about at some point. So there's the impact of that as well. And that also falls under his jurisdiction. So it might kind of be a way to say, you know, we're kind of from transportation, we're getting it pretty good here from two directions, and we're a residential community. And while you're fixing the planes, how about if you put up a wall and make unincorporated Miami-Dade County pay for it? So those are the things I wanted to mention, and that's why I asked this to be put on the agenda. And I wasn't questioning anything, Jonathan, just to be clear, when I asked for it to be put on the agenda, I was confused. I thought Ed wrote it because we got an email saying, don't reply to this email. And I'm like, why can't we reply? And then I was told you can communicate with Ed, and Ed said, request to put it on the agenda.
Gotcha. Okay. No problem. Yeah, I can take a look at those. I have those points down and some of the bullet points and see if I can free up some space.
Would you guys support all of those kind of things being added?
Yeah.
You're okay with it?
I think I'm okay as well. I was just gonna ask, so this is for commercial planes. So what about the routes for the small planes? You know, we had a couple crashes happen in the beach. Those little planes, the ones that go, you know what I'm
The
talking
ones that
about?
pull the banners and the water planes or whatever they're called?
That, not necessarily only those, but that sort of size. Where do are they within this route that?
I don't think they come out of, I may not be correct about this. I don't think they come out of MIA. I think they come out of Opelika.
Okay.
Okay.
And you do see them go by, because sometimes I think some cargo planes come out of Opelika as well. Because I'll see them, I can tell by the flight pattern when they're going up that way, they're coming from Opelika.
Okay, because I was thinking safety as another concern, you know, the few crashes we've seen or people landing in emergency have been those planes lately. I don't know
Yeah.
if you guys have seen some of the news on those, and I mean, I know that doesn't just affect us, but that could be another bullet point. I don't know if, I was wondering if those little planes were part of this route.
I don't know that they are.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think so, but I mean, either way, it's flight traffic
Yeah,
in general.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Safety concern that applies
Yeah.
probably to every other
Yeah, I'm sure.
city.
I'm sure. Okay.
If this
Yeah.
could be made, I know you said a Gmail, which is really cool,
Mm.
for us tracking, but could this be on change.org? That's
Yeah.
a really great way to kind of get that, exposure and attention. maybe.
Well, I think it may have
Want it to
been.
be that big.
I think it may have been at one time. At the beginning, there was a,
Was something on change.org before.
Jonathan, if you send an email to Shantae and ask her to, for me to make an introduction to you, I'll be happy to do it. There was an organization based out of San Souci, a gentleman there and a woman in Keystone Point, that back in the very early stages of this, they put together a group and they approached me to bring it to the commission, which we did, and we passed a resolution. Through Shantae, I can put you in contact with them, because I think they probably have the biggest database of people who were really concerned about this. So that might get you a big chunk right out of
Yeah,
the.
be a great start.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. That would be great.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll make some additional edits to it, and we'll send it back around and get ready to, I don't know that our commissioner in North Bay Village is gonna have any changes to it. I don't think that she will. But if she does, I'll implement those too.
Thank you for doing that, Mayor.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
pretty handy tool.
I thought it sounded very reasonable and, thorough
It-
and respectful.
Put in the parameters, and it surprised. All right, great. So having concluded 6A, let's move on to 6B. We have a fancy little bingo card here in front of us. So I don't know that we have a set procedure on how we plan on going through this. I know we were going to come here this evening and talk about our top three, top four, top however many candidates we have.
Someone
Somebody is on.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, there we go. All good. But I know that the talk, or at least something that we discussed last week was coming in here this evening and with the ultimate goal of setting up some of the folks that we agree upon to bring in for in-person interviews with the whole commission. So I think I'd just like to know how that's going to look. Our next meeting is July 11. So unless we want to propose doing it before then, you know, with the understanding that there's a July 4th weekend in between, do we just carve, I think either we just carve out time within that regular commission meeting, or we, you know, come here early and try and see who's available and do an in-person interview.
I can't remember. Art, last time, I know you weren't on the commission, but you were at all our meetings on. Did we set up interviews where people came to the same evening of interview, or we did them on consecutive nights, didn't we? We set up individual interviews with each of these people, and they were all by Zoom because it was during COVID.
I remember
So-
seeing Mario's interview.
Yeah.
I think it was like the last phase. I don't remember seeing candidates on our YouTube channel.
Well, it was all by Zoom, so they probably were like blocked in the room or something.
Got it.
So are you proposing, Jonathan, that we set up, that we decide to do like one night, one special meeting to do all the interviews at one time for whatever group we want to bring in?
Well, I don't know that we're going to be able to get everybody available on one night. If they want the job, I would think they would try to make themselves available. So, well, I guess let's just see how many we have. And then we can decide if we think it would work in front of a regular commission meeting, knowing you're going to be,
I don't think we
No.
should do it at a regular commission meeting. I think we should do a special meeting for that. We have other things to,
I
a
agree.
regular meeting,
Right.
separate topic.
that makes sense.
I'd be happy to, you know, make myself available.
Okay.
I just, the week of the 26th, I'm in New Orleans, the Monday through Thursday, but I could zoom in for that. That's easy enough to do by Zoom.
The end of June, you're
June.
saying? I'm going to be out of town the end of June, as well. But I guess let's talk about the candidates first, see how many people we think we'd like to have the commission interview, and then we can decide how long we think we need for it.
So, if I may, I
Yeah.
think that probably, in my opinion, I think the easiest way to do this is perhaps all of us discuss, you know, our top 3, 4, 5 candidates, whatever you guys want.
Mm.
And then we compare notes, and if there is, you know, the majority agree on a particular candidate, we move that candidate forward. If the majority doesn't agree, then we don't move the candidate forward. And I think that would just simplify the process. Because I mean, I have my candidates, you know, listed out. So it'd be very simple for me to just say, you know, which are my top 3, 4, 5, whatever. And then, you know, we share that list, and then, you know, we move from there.
Everyone just kind of rattle off your list of people that you would want to consider for a group interview.
So-
Yeah, I think that, and then we just write them down, and then, you know, Mac and, or however you guys want to start, and I think that'd probably be easiest. Okay. Jonathan, how do you want to start?
That sounds good to me. I like the idea. So Art, if you want to get us started, we can certainly do
Okay,
that.
cool. So Art's top 4 are Gladys Gonzalez. And this is not in any particular order, guys.
Okay.
No, not related, Mr. Attorney. No. Chris Truitt. Chris Truitt. Bryant Acevedo. And Chris Russo.
Many do you have?
I have 4.
4.
That's my top. Then my list dwindles from the top.
Alright.
So
Okay.
you guys want to do 5? You guys want to do 4? I mean, I'm,
Everyone just does whatever they have.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's fine.
Commissioner Amser, if you could please.
So mine are John Barkley, Gladys Gonzalez,
Sorry.
Hold on. Whoop, sorry.
Wait, easy, take it
It was-
easy.
I couldn't hear what you were saying.
Barkley.
Is your microphone on?
Gladys.
yes.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Barkley.
Gladys Gonzalez, Christina Mamber. Chris Tritt. 5-4.
Chris Tuitt, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
And I want to make a note. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see the applicants of yesterday, Bryant and Jude. So I put an asterisk on those two to see your feedback as well.
Okay. All right, so now I do the same. I did get a chance to speak with Bryant Acevedo. I did not get a chance to speak with Jude or Sinte. I think Sinte was.
Same.
But mine would be Gladys. Christina. Chris Russo. Chris Truitt and Bryant as well.
And Bryant?
Bryant, yes. Commissioner Oliver? Yep.
Okay, mine are in no particular order either. And to move forward, I would like to see Chris Truitt, Christina Mamberg, Gladys Gonzalez, Bryant Acevedo. And then I don't know, I didn't get a chance to speak with, is it Sinte Matthews? So I kind of put an asterisk on that one.
I think it might be, well, I was gonna say, I think that might be, since the job posting is still open while we go forward, we're probably gonna continue to receive them.
Rollovers,
But we gotta start somewhere, so this is where we're starting.
Okay.
Okay, does that conclude your list?
Sorry. Did you have Bryant on there or no?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Just because I haven't spoken, I put an asterisk.
Oh, okay, you haven't spoken. Okay, cool.
Commissioner Oliveira, that was your list? Okay, great, thank you. Commissioner Kennedy? Sure.
Okay, mine are in no particular order either, but I want to say something first. I just want to, we had a resident who applied and I wanted to thank her for Maria. I'm going to mispronounce her last name. It is Maria
Nathan,
Nathanson. And I had a really nice meeting with her and I thought she was great. And I'm hoping she gets involved in some village stuff because we could use her on a board. Yeah, I really liked her a lot. So if Maria, if you're listening, please apply for P and Z.
stay.
Stay.
Don't leave.
Yes, exactly. Please apply for the Planning and Zoning Board. And also I was really happy to see Isa apply and I was disappointed when he withdrew today. So I just want to say thank you to Isa as well for applying for the position. So I'm going to put 4 people forward. I'm going to put 5 people forward. In no particular order. Bryant Acevedo, Chris Truitt, Gladys,
Take it easy.
I'm sorry. Bryant Acevedo, Chris Truitt, Gladys Gonzalez, Chris Russo, and Matthew Halpern, who I really had a nice conversation with. And I did get to meet with everyone. I met Jude Pierre. He came here at 5 o'clock today and I got to talk to Sinte today. So I squeezed him in last minute, but I did officially get to talk to everybody. So I don't have anybody on deck. That will be my complete list until we get more people in.
I'm amazed. We have a lot of parallel choices. This is fantastic. So I think that this doesn't necessarily close the door on any of the other folks that we haven't spoken with, certainly. So if there's, I know we have some folks that are listening who have submitted resumes. This certainly doesn't mean that this person, you will not be considered. This is just, this is the list of the individuals that we want to bring in for in-person interviews right now. So it looks like we have a lot of consensus. So what do we have?
Which ones are there any that all 5 of us put on the
Yes.
list? Which ones are they?
Gladys Gonzalez and Chris Truitt. No, she didn't.
That's only,
Spoken with him.
she had
Okay.
an opportunity to speak with him yet.
So
We start with
Gladys is one,
those two. I think.
Gladys and Chris. Okay, so in other words, we're thinking about offering them interviews. Well, Veronica, Vero, I'd only say this because you brought it up. You didn't get a chance to talk to Bryant. And you said unless one of us would, I really enthusiastically support him to
I'm all
move
in
forward.
bringing
Okay,
him
right.
forward. Absolutely. If you
The
guys
rest
have
of the other
chance-
four of us all put him on. Yeah, we all did. So, okay.
Yes, absolutely.
So we've got,
How many coincidences? So
Three. Bryant, Chris Truitt, and Gladys. How many of us put Chris Russo?
There's three.
3 of us.
Three did.
Three votes
Okay.
for Chris Russo, which I think obviously we would bring him forward because
Yeah.
that's the majority.
Yeah.
And then how many put Christina Mamberg? 1, 2, 3.
Us As well.
So we would include both of them as well. So we would have 5.
1, 2, 3, 4. That's, I see 5 for 3 of us or more.
For Christina Mamberg, how many?
3,
3.
Oh, yeah, so,
It's the same as Chris Russo, right?
correct.
yeah. Yeah,
So for 3 or more, we have five folks. It's I mean, I was excited how many applicants we got and how many like very qualified applicants we got.
A
And
variety with a different kind of experience, and it was really interesting to talk to them all, and the conversations went really in interesting directions.
Yep.
5. Christina, Chris Russo, both Chris's, Christina, Gladys, and Bryant.
so what do we think we anticipate for time for each one of these individuals?
Well, should we first ask Paul to have the background checks done on all 5
Oh,
of
yes,
these?
that's right.
And that's easy. That's, what was it, $200?
I thought it was 300.
3, was that what it said? So that would be $1,500. I have no problem spending $1,500 to put all 5 of these people through the process. You guys cool with that?
That's fine. Do we need can we agree just on majority, Ed?
Yeah, so what's the timeline on that? We
Okay.
we would have to reach out to them, right?
They have to sign something.
They have to sign something, submit some information, I'm assuming. So I don't know I guess, Paul, you would have to get back to us as far as a timeline when you reach out to them. And then when you speak to the background people, so that we know when we can schedule something, because obviously, the sooner the better, because, ideally, we don't have any of these people drop out. Review them, and move the process forward.
Right, I believe Shantae already started getting organized with the background check. Is that correct? You already identified, yeah, we refreshed that relationship with them. And I don't have the particulars on,
Once we submit the information, do you have any idea how long it'll take? No. Okay. So just let us know.
Because you're saying you would want that information before we conduct the group interviews?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That makes
Well, I
sense.
wonder if we could just sort of project out and sort of have a tentative date, at least so it's on our calendars, and tell the candidates, this is the date we're shooting for based on getting background checks back. So at least we have a date locked down, so none of us have a conflict.
What I'd like to do is make sure that these candidates, at least the ones that we've identified, know as soon as possible that we have moved them forward.
Yeah.
So that, they know that the process is moving. I don't know if any of them are on Zoom tonight or not.
All of them are actually.
Great. So yeah, so just let's make sure that that we reach out to them, Paul, and we let them know that we've decided that we're going to move forward with them and that the background.
But yes,
Just a couple of things. My recollection from the last time is that those background checks came back pretty fast.
I thought so too.
it's great.
I mean, within like.
Surprisingly fast.
It should be.
Yeah.
I'd say I would figure even less.
Yeah, and it might be even less. And the other thing is I just checked the agendas from back in November.
Mhm.
And you had 2 nights with 2 candidates each. Sorry about that. Anyway, that's the way we did it the last time. We had 2 candidates. I don't know if you want to do all 5 at the same, just if they're coming here, that's one thing.
Well, 1,
Several are not
2,
local.
3 of them are local. So maybe we could try to get the 3 local people on one night and the 2 Zooms on a different night. Because the one Zoom, one Zoom's in California and the other one's in Wisconsin. So one's in Central and one's on the West Coast. I mean, maybe they'll want to hop on a plane and fly here. We don't pay for that, but They may choose to do that if that would be their prerogative.
One suggestion that they'd be happy to, but with Zoom, that's much more efficient.
So maybe we look at the first week of July. The 4th is on a Tuesday. If we said like, I don't know, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and try to set up 2 days there, so at least they're on our calendar, that's 3 weeks from now. So assuming we get this background process started this week, hopefully we get stuff back by then. We could always tell them, look, this is a tentative date. We're hoping and planning for this date, but it's based on background checks coming back.
I think that's probably a good way to do it.
Otherwise, it's the week of the 11th. We have a commission meeting that week. I'm in Vegas
Wait, yeah, when are you, what date's you in Vegas again?
10th to the 16th. I'm gone the entire week.
Okay. And then you said in June, if we were looking at June, what,
I'm gone the week of the 26th,
is anybody else,
6th to the 29th.
does anybody else have plans or planning to be out of town? I mean, plans.
What's the date again, please?
I think
We're just talking on the end of June right now.
I think that's too tight. I'm not sure we'd make it. We're already at the 13th. 2 weeks from tonight would be the 27th. We're not gonna have time for background checks to be done that quickly, I don't think.
July.
I think first week of July
Okay.
is like the first reasonable.
7th.
Is anybody planning on being gone that week? I know it's a holiday week. You might have, oh, okay, that's fine. If it's, if you're able to. Okay. You're around, okay. All right, so let's look at that. Let's look at that. Maybe we start on the 6th.
Great.
6th is a Thursday. So what, do Thursday and Friday? Or Wednesday and Thursday?
Probably Wednesday and Thursday.
Wednesday and Thursday, the 5th and 6th. Okay, so
So let's aim for those days.
manager interview.
1, 2, 3 weeks.
So the 5th and the 6th, and it would be a 6 o'clock start?
What do we think? What are we thinking for each
Is this
person?
gonna be for the locals?
Well, I suggested one night for the locals in person here and the other one could be Zoom, but only 3 of us have to be here to Zoom that.
Yeah.
The other 2 could be
Zoom.
elsewhere. Zoom.
And I assume you're not going to be taking any votes at that meeting. It's purely for interview purposes.
Interview purposes.
Correct.
And the following, whatever, if you do it the following Tuesday, our regular meeting or some other meeting subsequent to that one, an actual vote would be. Yeah.
Assuming it goes well and we get everyone on those 2 dates, we would still have time to put something on for the 11th if we want to discuss it. I'm sure we will.
Yeah.
Again, assuming we get everybody we want to get by then.
Mhm.
So I think that's likely to be the plan. So we'll plan on Wednesday for the local group, Wednesday the 5th for the local group.
Maybe Shantae could it doesn't matter to us. Maybe Shantae could pull them and kind of figure out what works best for them.
I was gonna say, because they can.
We're here regardless. Yeah.
And then in terms of time, so are we setting a specific, should be the same amount of time for each, but is it like an hour we're setting up for each, a half an hour? What do we think?
We do last time.
Like a 30 minute?
If we're doing 3 in a night, if we do an hour each and a little break in between, take a breath, that's
An hour is a
hours right
long,
there.
long time, but.
Yeah,
it's
but we
also
have-
5 of us plus community
Right.
questions.
Yeah, that's the issue. We have a lot of people here probably gonna ask a lot of questions. And maybe we should limit our questions because if not, we're gonna be here all night,
Yeah.
Talking to somebody.
So
all of
does
us.
the public get to ask questions? I can't remember. I wouldn't think so.
No, I don't think so.
They could,
They can
Us
submit
ahead of
them to
time.
You
us.
can
but-
submit questions to us
right.
and
Close for public comments?
Well, we still have, I think, we still have public comment because it's public meeting.
My recommendation is
Workshop.
to not do that until they're up for the vote.
Yeah.
Okay,
You-
well, that makes more sense. This is.
Not
this is a
have to
very
have
early-
public comment if you're not taking any votes.
Well, this is a very early, it's an interview. It's
Yeah.
not, we're not voting.
If we're not taking a vote, we don't need public comment. If we did an hour for each one, there's 5 of us. We each get 10 minutes. That's 15 minutes. We get a little break in between them for the people to kind of get themselves settled in and
so
whatever.
is that how we're gonna do it? Are we gonna time ourselves? Or are we going to say, let's limit it to 10 questions per person? Or how do you guys want to do that?
I think we have to time it because if each of us wants to get equal opportunity with the group, with each person, I think we have to do it that way.
That's. fine.
Otherwise, if we said 5 questions, the answer
Go
could go
for-
on for a long time,
Yeah,
depending on what
yeah.
the question
Okay,
is.
that's fine.
Oh, if we all have the same questions and then we're repetitive over and over, why don't we just leave it open? We have a bunch of questions and within a certain amount of time, the same questions I might ask might be the same one you have listed.
But if that happens, then if you ask the question I'm gonna ask, then I just don't need to ask.
I don't need to ask it, yeah.
Are you saying bring 10 questions each? And
No, I
Plan for
Oh,
10 minutes. Bring whatever you
minutes.
want to bring,
Yeah,
but
I
plan
think-
for 10 minutes.
think that's the only way it
Yeah.
makes most sense to maximize each person's time with the
Mhm.
group, with each candidate.
Okay.
So if we plan, I think 10 minutes is a good benchmark because then we're getting to about the hour. We
Yeah.
have a little buffer room in between each person. If we finish early, we finish early. That's fine.
Some of us may have less than 10 minutes. I mean, some of us
Yeah.
may end up with less than 10 minutes. Some of them will go to 10 minutes.
Gonna ask
Let's,
about-
Who did
okay.
who did he point to? I couldn't tell who he pointed. It was a very
Pointing
vague point.
Outside. Listen, what about, the following, once we have these interviews and we talk a little bit about the next step, right? So once we have these interviews with these folks, what is the plan there? Are we going to whittle it down to 2, whittle it down to the top 3, bring it back for a vote? What are you guys thinking on that?
I think that the only way we could do it is we would have to take a vote amongst all 5 of us to say we want this person to go to the next round. And if somebody doesn't get a majority vote, then they kind of drop off. And then if we've got 3 people that go to the next round,
I think we might just play this all by ear after that, because it could be that we conduct these interviews and we all look at each other and go, it's that one. You know, and we don't have to go on to these next steps. It might just be
so that could.
like
be-
what just happened might just happen again. It might be like, we all agree there's 2 here that we need to have a conversation about.
So that could be the point of putting something on the July 11 agenda. You know, we could put that on there and say, all right, let's talk about it and say, hey, we all feel, you know,
A discussion about the
Collectively.
interviews.
yeah, collectively that. this
Here's the
person is
curveball though, Jonathan, that applications are still coming in and there are some people who applied today and I think I'm the only one who met them. Now, I didn't move any of them forward, but the other 4 of you might move these people forward. So we have to also leave ourselves open to that
So that's
possibility.
exactly. So that, I guess, a general agenda item as to the update on the manager interviews, because in the interim, we may be able to all speak with these people. And I know 4 of us had put forward Brian Acevedo, and when you speak to him, you may feel the same way. So you're right. You know, we may open this up. We also may speak to Sinte and say, oh my gosh, she's fantastic. So yeah, I think we just need to leave it open for discussion on
The
updates.
2 who came in today were really interesting interviews. I'm just letting you know. So it's, you know, that could happen. So I think we need to like do this.
Save some discussion time, maybe before conduct the interviews to see if we then ask for a go-ahead for backgrounds to be run on any newcomers that have a.
Oh.
consensus.
Yeah.
Sorry, say that one more time. I think I misunderstood.
Let me see if I can run it back.
You can dumb it down for my level.
I'm saying before we have these interviews, let's say coming up, because we're not gonna have a chance to meet together again to openly discuss.
Mm.
So like, let's say on 7/5, we take the first 15 minutes and we go, hey, let's do a quick consensus on any new coming interviews that came in. Let's see if there's anyone that we would
Funnel them in.
consensus to push forward. Can we go ahead and get backgrounds going and offer them a next interview round, or decide how we want to handle that if we feel that's
So
strongly.
it's a good idea. I think it's a different meeting though. Because if the interviews are a fact finding, so to speak, type of meeting, are we still noticing them as a public meeting? The interviews, do we have to notice that still notice as a public?
There's
Well,
no
we're
date.
discussing items, so that makes sense.
This-
Not voting on it, so it's just a workshop.
Yeah.
We don't have that. But we can,
So that's it. I think that's a good idea. So you're just saying put on the July, on the first night.
just in-
Yeah,
The first interview night, just a quick conversation on anybody who came in after the first group. We'll just say, you know, anybody want to talk about anybody else?
Yeah.
And one of you might toss a name out there and we all agree on it and we ask Shantae to move them forward as fast as we can and set up an interview with them as well.
no, I think that works. I think that's the only way we can do it if we want to move.
Because they're still coming in pretty quickly. We got
Yeah.
2 today.
Yeah.
so we'll leave it open until we close this thing, or where's our deadline for closing this? Because then it will always be like a day behind, like it happened with this last.
I don't mind it staying open just because you never know who's going to come in. I mean, it looks like we're pretty enthusiastic about a group of people here. As a group, we are pretty enthusiastic. So we'll see what happens, but I wouldn't want us to limit ourselves on the best candidate because they came in when we were in the process.
Oh, but like we also do have, and I've had a couple interviews with some of them, you know, so you want to be able to have enough time to meet them and do the proper back conversations that you need to have. Does everybody agree that we will leave it open until we meet?
What is the date the date now is July 15th? What is the deadline that's on the ad that's posted? I
So
think
we-
it's,
We'll meet for the interviews 6 and 7.
Yeah.
Sorry, 5 and 6.
again,
Right,
here.
Madam Clerk, it's open, you said? There is no,
Decided to leave it open until.
we
you-
decided to close it.
until You decided to close.
Yeah, and that's my question, like if we're
Oh,
gonna,
I thought it had a hard date on it,
no,
doesn't it?
that's
Okay.
why. So I
Okay.
think that's why I was asking, so that we're not caught on the 5th when we meet here, that we have 10 applicants.
Yeah, I'm good with having a closing date.
So why don't we just close at the end of June? And then we meet a couple of days after. I don't know when it's gonna be submitting resumes on July 4th. We
That
meet
would
the
be
day,
June 30th.
so we meet the day, we meet a couple of days after that, and if, we should have some new folks. So we'll do, yeah, let's do that. Let's do the end of June and we'll see how many more people we have. We'll talk at the beginning of the meeting on the 5th. We'll decide if there's any new people we want to put forward. And then we'll go through the interviews and, you know, hopefully have some consensus on who we like.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah,
June
I'm good with
30th
that.
is fine. Yeah,
June 30th.
good time.
Just try and follow along.
We had it as June 2nd. We opened it back. Now we're closing it June 30th, so we can move on in the process.
Okay, so the ad's going to stay up till June 30th. We're going to meet the 5th and 6th. Shantae is going to tell us which one are in-person interviews, which one are Zoom interviews. She'll try to coordinate them being on nights. We each get 10 minutes
Okay,
to discuss, and then if there's extra time at the end and we don't have to follow that rule tight. If there was somebody wanted to follow up to one of my questions, I don't care.
Yeah.
You know, so at the end of it, and then on July 11th, we discuss where we stand on the candidates. Okay,
And then next steps, hopefully from there, when we have,
well, we'll see. We'll have a discussion about
Discuss-
that,
yeah,
see where it falls.
I think the idea is to have the general discussion, and if we find during that discussion that there's a consensus on one individual, then we can go ahead and move it to that.
Yeah. Because on the 5th or 6th, we're going to talk about anybody else who came into the process, and there might be some of those people that we are enthusiastic about, and we want to start them it may push everything back,
Yep.
depending on how enthusiastic we are about any additional candidates who come in.
I have a question. So on the 5th and 6th, that we're meeting with them, are we giving them a specific time to answer each questions? Because then my question can open, you know, it could be a bigger answer and then it would take 7 minutes out of my 10. So I only ask a question.
Well,
I'm just saying that, or do we want to have them prepare in a ways to be concise and say, you
I think
guys,
some questions require longer answers. I would be totally cool if for your 10 minutes, you control your 10 minutes and say, look, I'm going to ask you a question. I'd like you to keep your answer to like 45 seconds for me because I have a bunch of other questions for you.
10.
You know,
Gotta do like Congress. Have you ever seen a congressional hearing?
Yeah.
I don't like
Don't
usually
like time.
the time and
Well-
specifically on this, but I was wondering just to be fair, you know.
What
if
about
that's
this?
something.
I mean, yeah, I think specifying to them, you know, if they could keep an answer posed, because you have several other questions, but maybe when Shantae, when you reach out, to schedule interviews, maybe let them know ahead of time that each commissioner is going to have 10 minutes. So they're going to try and do as much as they can within that time period. So just so they know, so they come prepared saying, I only get 10 minutes with each person, so I'm not going to drone on for 9 minutes.
and I would hope that they're all either watching this meeting or will watch it on YouTube and understand what we want them to do for us.
And then also, I mean, there's 5 of them coming. We have 2 days. Hopefully they don't all agree to come on the 6th. So we do spread them 3-2 as much as they are
Yeah.
available.
I trust Shantae's scheduling abilities.
On a side note, we can continue to speak to these people, can we not?
Hmm?
We can continue to speak with these people, can we not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you have maybe a complex question that you think is going to take 7 minutes to answer, maybe you ask them before.
That's a good point.
you
It's a
know.
great idea.
I think that's what I'm saying. I'm thinking, what else am I gonna bring up that?
Yeah, that you haven't already done there.
So for me, it's about, okay, let me pick which.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll provide them an opportunity to go full circle with the answer. I don't know.
Or kind of prepare them for, I want you to speak directly on this one big thing I'm going to talk to you about. I could see myself saying that to someone.
Yeah.
I'm specifically going to want you to talk about this one thing and just be prepared that I'm going to ask you that question because I want my colleagues to hear the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's totally a good idea.
This is great. I'm excited.
I wanted to say as well, to everybody that participated, everybody that unfortunately didn't make the cut anyhow. We did have a good pool of professionals, with a lot of energy, interest on the village, and also for Isa, I was sad to see his name go. But again, thank you for everybody.
Before we adjourn, can I bring up one quick thing? Sure. The July meeting, which we're going to start at 7 o'clock. I'm going to be zooming in for that meeting from Vegas and I'm going to be like really rushing to even get here for the 7 o'clock start time,
4 o'clock your time, right?
4 o'clock, but I'm at a convention and I have like meetings starting at 8 o'clock
Back to
and,
back.
and I'm running all over town. So would you guys consider, I have two items on the agenda that are that are items that I brought initially. One is LDC and the other one is CAT item. And while I'll be in the meeting, I would really prefer to be in the room for those meetings, for those topics. Would you guys consider pushing them to the August meeting? Because they're my items and I would like to be here for them.
Which two were they again?
LDC, McMansions.
Yep.
Cats.
Cats, okay.
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, and then whenever someone brings something, I always think it's nice to allow them to like be here for it, you know? Sure. So if you guys would agree to that, I'd really appreciate it.
No, no
Awesome.
problem.
Thank you very much.
Great. Okay, well, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to the 5th and the 6th and the time in between.
I am too, and it's nice that we had such a consensus on this group. It's really kind of
Fantastic.
feel really good about how the process will go.
Great. All right. So thank you for everybody. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
I.
Adjourn.